Making a video every single day has become a little bit of a challenge, and coming up with topics or ideas for videos is sometimes not that easy. So I turned to Google and researched what are ideas of videos and content you could talk about. And one of the first things that came to mind, or at least came to the page more so, was the idea to talk about 10 random things about me, or just my life. And I thought that is actually quite interesting because I have been sharing a lot on this channel, but not a lot of backstory to different aspects of my life. So let's get into this list of 10 things about me. The first thing on my list is that I started programming or learning to program when I was 9 years old, maybe even a little before that. And the story behind that is that when I was 8 or 9 years old, I wanted to have my own computer. In my family, we already had one computer, but I wanted to have my own because I wanted to be able to do whatever I was doing with it whenever I wanted. And my parents made a deal with me. Basically, they said, save your money for a year, and when Christmas comes, we will add as much as needed to be able to afford that computer. And sure enough, that Christmas, I got a computer, including a flat screen, which was pretty crazy at the time. Nowadays, it wouldn't be any other way, but a flat screen. And most importantly, there was a game that was called Anno 1503, which was something that I was already interested in a lot. However, that came with a catch that was also under the Christmas tree, which was a book called HTML for Kids. And with that, basically the idea from my parents was, you have to do something productive if you want to game. And that kind of came with this trade agreement that I have to be able to do something useful with this computer and also learn to program. And the funny thing about that is that within a couple of years, maybe even just a couple of months, gaming was taking the back seat and programming and doing productive things with a computer took the forefront. However, that kind of leads into the next point. And that is number 2 on my list, which is that I made money programming or working for someone else when I was 13 years old with a skill that I had learned basically by myself, and that was the programming. So when I was 13 years old, a teacher who also was in the board at a club or like a sports club was searching for someone to do a new website. The funny thing is, websites at the time were very different from websites nowadays. There was no WordPress, there wasn't even a content management system. So everything was HTML files, front end was one of the Microsoft programs that everybody used to make websites. And it was something that you had to still code yourself by hand completely. And at the time, actually, I was already in PHP, which was more advanced for the time. So I was able to do certain aspects with that when I was 13 years old. And I sold the website with a friend together. We kind of like made that in a partnership, and we earned 300 euros with it, which was for a 13-year-old pretty crazy to do that with a skill that I learned by myself and for myself, basically. And that kind of toggles into the next point as well. Number 3, I was never employed. When I was 17 and 18 years old, I had 2 summer jobs. And then when I finished my bachelor's degree in computer science, I did an internship. But that's about it in terms of normal, quote unquote, employment. After that, and even during my studying and my school years, I never really had any student jobs like bartending, working in restaurants, or just being someone in the back room of some office. I always just freelanced or ran my own companies. And that is really cool. But at the same time, I'm also missing out on, for example, the office culture that many experience, or having a mentor that you work for. So I'm kind of like back and forth on this one, but it's pretty cool to see that I have lived my lifestyle based on the money that I have earned being a freelancer and not going the traditional route of normal employment. The next one on my list is that I've been traveling for about 2.5 years at this point. And the funny thing is that before that, I never even have left the continent. But I've started to dream about this lifestyle of location independence and digital nomadism for years, maybe even 12 years at this point. I probably started learning about it when I was about 16 years old. And at the time, it was books like The 4-Hour Workweek or Rework, The Art of Nonconformity and stuff like that, that inspired me to kind of like want to live this lifestyle. But it took me a long time to actually step foot out of Europe and go on this travel adventure. The first flight was in June 2016. It was to Vegas in the US because I was attending a conference there, and then I just traveled for another 4 weeks after that Coming back to Germany, I was hooked on the traveling, and I basically told my friends with which I had a shared apartment that I no longer wanted to live there. We found a replacement for me, and I started traveling with the Nomad Cruise, going to many different countries, and I have not been in Europe as long as I've been out of Europe since, which is pretty cool, but also may be due to change. And the next one on my list is that I tend to think too much about pretty much anything. Many people who know me probably also know that I overthink and I oftentimes also talk a lot. The thing is, I have so many things going on in my brain that I just need expression, and I also found out that talking things out is actually a great way for me to think and then change my opinion while I'm talking, or manifest or concretize something while talking. However, that comes to the dismay of my girlfriend, my mother, my sister sometimes, or different other people, that it is really hard for me to kind of like just sit back and listen to someone. Sometimes that works. More often than not, I probably am the one talking. Around that, I've tried many things like meditation, journaling, or yoga to kind of like slow down and keep a grasp or get a grasp on this. But I've not been able to kind of like stick this habit and make it something stable. And I guess the saying is true, if you can't make time for a 5-minute meditation, you probably need an hour. The next one on the list is that I ran so many websites, blogs, and online profiles that at this point, I don't even know what they were called. As I've mentioned before, I started to work with computers very early on, and I very quickly found internet to be the more interesting aspect of it, and websites especially. Then I started a lot of blogs, websites to different topics and stuff like that. I even ran a clan or a guild for a little bit. Even though I didn't really game much, I ran the whole web server and gaming server kind of structure. So I ran a lot of things, but at this point it's really hard for me to remember any one specific of them because there were so many. And the sad thing is that nothing really stuck with it. But that funnels into the next point. And this point is that I wanted to be successful really early on. I was working with my computer. I didn't really have any interest in the games that I was playing or my friends were playing. So I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do business. I wanted to be someone. And the problem with that is that I also started seeing all kinds of young, very successful people. The 16-year-old person that ran an advertising network, the 17-year-old that launches an app that makes 1,000 or more a month, and then the many people that were running blogs that were very, very young at the time, that were getting review products, that were getting sponsorship deals, weekly sponsorships, and all kinds of other opportunities that I wasn't getting. The problem with that, looking back, it's regret. I was so focused on getting something out of this that I probably forgot to like or enjoy the process. And I'm kind of like working on that to figure that out for the future to make a better life for myself. But now we have something that has nothing to do with computers, and that's a good thing. I ballroom danced for about 5 years, multiple days a week, and it was great. It was one of the things that kind of got me away from the computer, and it was very needed because I think I spent a little bit too much in front of that thing. Going to number 8, I bought my first Apple product when I was about 15 years old. That was an iPod Classic, which has the hard drive in it, so you can store a lot of music on it, and that was really fun. Since then, I've had a MacBook from like forever ago, the white one, 13-inch. I had an iMac. I had a MacBook Pro from 2014 or 15. I also had the iPhone 3GS on the day it was launched in Germany with a T-Mobile contract. I have an iPhone 4S, the iPhone 6, and the 7 Plus, which is my current phone. And all of those devices were great, and you probably guessed it right. I am bought into the ecosystem of Apple, which means I have a really hard time choosing anything different than this. But on the other hand, they work, and that is amazing, and I love it. And the last one is that my favorite color as a child was red. However, now I'm so indecisive and I can't make any clear decisions, so I don't really have any favorite color, just like I don't really have a favorite food. It's really hard for me to make any kind of decision in that kind of realm. What is my favorite X? What is this? Like, even with cameras, like which camera would I choose if I would have every camera in the world to choose from? I could go for quality, I could go for size, I could go for so many different things. It's really hard for me to make decisions nowadays. But as a child, I was very easy and it was red. So now you have a couple more details about me, and you can understand a little more where I am coming from and where I might be headed. And I would be super interested to know your 10 facts about yourself or 10 things about yourself, maybe in the realm of what I shared. What are your ideas around it? What do you experience in your life? Share it in the comments down below and I will make sure to respond to that. Other than that, I hope you're having an amazing day and I will see you back here in another video tomorrow. Bye. Bye.